Hey everybody, so what do we do when the weather's rubbish and we all have slightly crazy lockdown hair and you can't actually get your telescope out? So when it's really cloudy and a bit like this and a bit like this, so what do we do? So I think there are a few things we can do when the weather's rubbish. And here's number one.
Fix your rig.
Whenever I have an imaging session and it's late, all of my cables, because this box lives under the mount, and all of the cables, as I take them off, I just put them in here and I drop them all in. And they've become a complete mess. And also my USB 3 cables, these ones, are not in the loom. So the thing to do when you can't go out imaging is to sort out your cables and do a bit of maintenance. So I'm going to do that right now. Done. And here's number two.
Learn something new.
Learning something new. This is really important. When it's rainy and you can't go out with the telescope, it's really important to spend some time just learning stuff. Even if it's just one thing, it's really important. So what I did, whenever I saw, let's say on social media, a word or a term, I would copy it into an email or a note and then try and find out a definition. I ended up basically creating lists of stuff that I wanted to learn about. So for example, I've got how do you attach cameras, what's a reducer, what's a flattener, a coma corrector, a dew heater, dew bands, DSLR and how you power a DSLR, an intervalometer, time-lapse, APT, Nina. And I found that it was really useful just to sit down and say, right, okay, I don't know what this thing is, but I've written it down. So tonight I can't go out, but I can see if I can find out one of my definitions and learn something new. And another really good thing to do is to try and learn something new in the software. So I'm trying to learn PixInsight, and the other day I realized there was a great big lump of dust which I couldn't get rid of with flats, and somebody was kind enough on Facebook to tell me about a new tool. We're in PixInsight now, and you can see here that I've got the Flame Nebula and the Horse's Head Nebula, and right here I've got a great big lump of dust which moved during shooting, so my flats were unable to remove it. But somebody suggested I could use the clone stamp tool, which is here. So if I zoom in on this horrible piece of dust that I've got here and then choose to use the clone stamp tool, if you press Control and then click in the area you want to select the colour and then click on the area where you've got the issue, you can actually colour it out, which is absolutely amazing. And you can see now that the clone stamp tool is literally removing this dust. Now that looks incredible, doesn't it? I don't think I've seen a tool to do that. Now if you notice what it's doing, it's taking the area where you took the sample and then it's drawing that colour over where the dirt is. So if I was to do it again in this area, it just disappears. So there you go, I've learned how to use the clone stamp tool, but it's also very easy to, if you're selecting there, you can start drawing things that you don't want, so you have to make sure that your sample tool is not over the area you don't want, otherwise it goes a bit wrong. But yeah, there you go, clone stamp tool, brilliant way of getting rid of dust. And here's number 3.
Buy stuff.
So buy something new. Right, on my telescope I have my guide scope here which logs onto a star, and that normally goes in the finder scope bracket here. But the problem I have is that it doesn't balance the telescope. So I have bought this. The idea of this is I'm going to mount the guide camera and scope on here. So I'm going to fit that onto there like that, and then this bit will then go onto the guide scope and it will mount on there. And this is a lovely little bracket which doesn't damage the dovetail, which is a lovely red anodized finish. So I'm going to fit those now. Now, because these are 12mm M6 bolts, and it's obviously going to be a little bit deep, and I obviously don't want to damage the scope at all. And you can see if you put those in there, it's still quite deep. So I'm going to put some washers underneath this to stop it from damaging. Fantastic. So the idea being that you then come along with your finder scope, your guide scope, bingo. Oh, I'm super impressed with that. That looks amazing. That looks really amazing. So I've now got my guide scope piggybacked onto my main telescope, which will help with balance. Job done. Super happy.
And number 4. Plan your target.
So the fourth thing that you can do when the weather's rubbish and you can't get your telescope out is plan your targets for when the weather is good. And I use Stellarium to do this, and you can see here this is Stellarium, and the great thing about Stellarium is you can actually time travel on it. So if, for example, here I'm looking at Orion, and it says here I'm in February, so I'm going to go to March, so it's now moved it across to its position at 9:30 in March. So if I now scroll forwards a few days, you can see its position on those days, which is really useful for finding where your subjects are. Now this week there's a really nice thing to see with Pleiades up here, so if I just scroll back in time, you'll see that Mars gets closer to Pleiades, and eventually they have a mini conjunction, and you can see there that Mars and Pleiades are now really close. So you can actually plan when you're going to be shooting different targets. And the other great thing about Stellariums, you can search as well. So there's a search window here, and I really want to take a photo of M101, so I'm going to put M101, and then I'm going to search for it, and it then slews across, and I can see that the target is roughly there, and it's in Ursa Major, so there's the plough, and the target's just there. So I'm going to zoom in now and actually have a look at M101. So there it is. So it's really useful to be able to find out when you can see these targets and to start planning on the types of things you would like to shoot.
And last but by no means least, number 5. Update your software.
And the final thing that you can do when the weather's rubbish and you can't get the telescope out is check that all of your software is updated. And I would really like to try PhD2 multi-star guiding. There's been loads of information on Facebook about it and how much better it is at guiding. So I've decided to come here to PhD2, and this is their website. And if you go to the download section and then look at the development snapshots, because it's not an official release yet, you can then click on the development snapshots builds, and version 2.6.9 development 4 has the multi-star guiding. So I've just downloaded that and installed it, and here it is. So it looks very similar to the normal PhD2. Now if you click on the brain here and then navigate through to guiding, the button you want is use multiple stars. So I'll select that and click OK. So now when I set this up for guiding, it should use multiple stars. It's really important that you do check your software to ensure that it keeps all up to date. And I know I've also got new versions of Astrophotography Tool and also PixInsight and various other things to update as well. So I'm going to work my way through those now.
So there we go, 5 things that we can do when the weather's rubbish, and well, that's pretty much when you're in the UK really, weather's rubbish. So yeah, 5 things you can do in astronomy when the weather's rubbish. But just occasionally the weather is okay, and when it's okay you get to take images that look like this. So we had 3 days, 3 nights rather, of clear weather, and I was really lucky. I managed to take these images. So thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe, please. And yeah, take care everyone. Bye.